Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we got a great issue for you guys. It is an Omega run, which means we are just catching up on the books that we had from the polls last week, and then we have some additional backlog books that we're going to get through for today. It's going to be like our typical Omegas, 10 issues to review. So with that, we can just go ahead and jump right into it. So you can see the 10 books that we have listed here. For the audio folks, I'll just go ahead and read them off. But for the video folks, you have them right there. We have Superman, the Kryptonite Spectrum. This is issue number 4. Transformers, issue 26. The Power Fantasy, number 13. We're Taking Everyone Down With Us, issue number 6. Green Lantern Corp, number 10. Interesting one here because I actually dropped this book. They added it to my pull list, and before I double checked, I went and just bought the book anyway. And I was like, by the way, is this on my list? And they're like, no, it's not. So what we can do next week is just bring it back in, like read it, enjoy it. That's fine. And we'll just swap it out with one of the other ones. So it's like, okay, perfect. So that worked out pretty nicely. And so we'll review that. Then we got Robo Wolf, issue number 2. And the Robo Wolf is the start of the backlogs that we have here. So that we have Youngbloods, which is technically like a mass market edition, if you will, but this is an older book that just came out. Batman Hush 162. Miles Morales Spider-Man number 39. And then The Nice House on the Lake, working our way through the trade, we have issue number 5. So those are the books. And that's the order that we will review them in case you want to go ahead and skip around. Figured we'd go ahead and start off with Superman, Kryptonite Spectrum, number 4, because this was one of the more popular books from last week's polls. And the manager at my shop, he was absolutely in love with this book, so I figured this would be a great one to start. And it's a really fun book. I'll go ahead and flip over to the screen so you can see here. I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.6. Definitely a very good book that we have here. So before I start with the review, just a reminder, or in case you're brand new to the show, if you are, welcome. Appreciate you tuning in. But the way that I do these reviews is I do spoil the heck out of all these books. So if you're not looking for spoilers, it's just not going to be the show for you, which is totally fine. But I'll catch you up on the story thus far. I'll give you kind of a synopsis and a review of the book, show off some of the artwork. I'll let you know my score on League and League score as well, and whether or not this is a good one to jump into. So yeah, that's going to be the format. So for Superman, the Kryptonite Spectrum, the way that this story is working out is there are these new kryptonite crystals that have been discovered, and they're different colors, and they each are having a different effect onto Superman. So each one of the issues, we've had a different crystal color and how it's affected him. We've had one that changed Superman's perception of time. So they did some cool like time manipulation things with the comics and the panels and how it all lined up in Superman's head versus how it actually played out. There's one that made him super large, like a kaiju. There's another that shrunk him down and then also turned him into a child. And now this one we learn about is Superman is now lost in his mind in the 5th dimension. And the best way to just describe it is he is on an insane acid trip right now. Is really the best way to describe it. So nothing makes any logical sense whatsoever. He starts off by, he's at the Daily Planet. He's supposed to be writing this article. The article makes no sense. There's this walrus that shows up. And then from there on out, like it's just a whole bunch of things that don't make any logical sense whatsoever. But the concern is like, you overstimulate your brain with like just a whole bunch of brain rot. And he's getting to the point where his brain is effectively going to melt because he like just can't really comprehend what is going on. So Batman has been basically by his side as he goes through his journey on all of these different kryptonites that he's being exposed to. And as they've all gone wrong some horrible way, Batman's been able to figure it out. And so now they're trying to figure out, how do we get to Superman? And as they do that, Superman basically kind of continues his journey. And it's crazy how they change up the different mediums. So you'll be reading through it. Then suddenly it's like an instruction book. Then suddenly it's a novel. Then you get back to comic and like they switch up kind of the panels and the ordering. You change up the different art styles. It's a whole bunch of different stuff that they mix into here, which is a lot of fun. And you get to the point where you have Batman's has like a 5th dimension version of him, but Superman has to create his own 5th dimension version. So he does do that. From there, he's able to figure out a way to get himself pulled out along with Batman as well. But when they do, Lex Luthor is also working in the background, and he's trying to, do what he always does, is trying to stop Superman. But he's like, none of these things are really working individually. What if I kind of combine all these crystals together? And he does, and he creates this kind of like kryptonite superhero. So Superman comes out, and there's Lex Luthor with this kryptonite superhero and an army of these bizarro droids as well. So that ends up being the cliffhanger. Really fun book. Art style is nuts because it's all over the place. Let's go ahead and show that off for the video, folks. Flipping through here he is at the planet doing his whole thing. Batman is also getting help here from this magician guy as well, who's like trying to help him out. The same guy from the New Gods, if you guys remember that at all, or from Danger Street is the other version as well. Here we have Lex trying to create this kryptonite superhero. But you got Superman back in here, and like, look, like you have like a reference to an Excel spreadsheet. His hands are like turning to spaghetti. It's like the craziest acid trip of all time. Here's this instruction panel. You have like kind of the old school comic book format and paneling as well. And you can see like Superman's just like losing it. Like, what the hell is actually going on? Here's like the novel piece that I was talking about. It almost becomes like a rom-com. And then here is where Superman creates his own version of this kind of fifth dimension little fairy that's able to help him through, and they're able to escape there. But at the very end, like I mentioned before, is where you have Lex Luthor with his army behind him. So yeah, fun book, really creative. Is it the one to jump into? You'd be fine. It's a fun individual issue, but it's all the books kind of combined together that makes the sum. It's better the sum of the parts than, the individual, however that saying goes. You know what I mean? But yeah, fun book either way. So again, that's Superman the Kryptonite Spectrum, issue number 4. I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.2. Then next here we have is Transformers, issue number 26. So this one was good, maybe a step back from what we were doing in issue 25. So this is with Robert Kirkman, right? Yep, he's writing this run here. Gave this one a 4. League gave it a 4.2. We're still really just trying to build out what exactly Kirkman's arc is going to be. And so a lot of this story is back on the arc that got the Autobots and the Decepticons to Earth in the first place. There is this one Decepticon that's like hooked up to the arc to basically allow it to be powered up. The Energon was... they didn't have much of it as a resource, so they barely had enough to keep themselves alive, and they basically just sacrificed one of the Decepticons to like keep the arc running. And so his brother comes to the arc and is like trying to free him. But if he removes his body from the arc, his brother's going to die. So he needs to keep him there. But when that happens, he basically shows up, right? And Optimus basically shows up because the previous issue, the U.S. government was like, hey, we actually have found a lot of Energon over the years, and we've stockpiled it. And the government is trying to make a deal with the Autobots and like team with them together. And it's basically like, hey, we'll give you whatever you need. We need like help basically destroying these Decepticons. And we realize you're the good guys. So Optimus comes back with that stockpile, and he's like, hey, we will rescue your brother, basically. So we'll be able to have enough Energon to power the arc, get your brother up and running, and then we should be good to go. And so this Decepticon, he's like, okay, and now he's starting to realize of like, maybe he's fighting for the wrong side. What are the Decepticons for? What is this all about? So sure enough, they bring the brother back to life, but he is like a Decepticon all the way through, and so basically he starts like freaking out of like, oh, it's the Autobots here. And he's like, brother, like, relax, I just brought you back. But he doesn't realize that and doesn't understand that, and is not in a position where he can accept that. And so he basically flees. After like attempting to try to attack, you got Soundwave that's imprisoned on there as well. Soundwave says like, Megatron's out there, go and try to find him. So he leaves. And the Autobots just let him leave. Whereas like the initial brother, the one that's like kind of conflicted now, he decides to stay. So now it's like kind of interesting where we have two brothers that are kind of splitting off and doing different things. So that takes place. Another thing that happens is when Optimus was at the stockpile base, they got a scan of him. And it's this one, like, I guess, mole within the government. And he's like, does anyone else know about these plans? And it's this other scientist with him. He's like, no, it's just us two. And he takes out a gun and he shoots him. So we got this guy who's going to do something with these plans and like maybe create like his own version of it. Who knows? So that's going to be something that we follow throughout the story as well. And then lastly, we have Megatron himself, who is with his group, and his Decepticons basically scrounged up some of the remaining energon that they could that was in the ocean. It's not much. And when he decides like, okay, this is enough for me, like something happens to him where he has either this vision or like he's sick or like he basically like faints or sees this flashing light and like passes out basically. So we're going to see what all that is about in the coming issues as well. So that is what takes place. A lot of it is dialogue focused, I'd say, for most of this issue. Let's go ahead and show off some of the artwork. You'd be fine to jump into this one. You'd probably be better off if you jumped into 25, but it does a good job of explaining, why they have the energon now, the little pact that the Autobots have with the Decepticons, or with the Autobots and the U.S. government, the pact that they have together, and why they have the energon in the first place. So you'd be fine to jump into this one. No worries there. But yeah, it's still developing here, so we'll see where it all goes. As of right now, I feel like the very first couple of issues, like issues 1 and 2, were really off to the races, and you had this nice slow burn. Here's where Megatron was like, I don't know, attacked or saw the light or something's happening here. We'll see. Yeah, the slow burn, and Megatron wasn't even introduced until like issue 18 or something like that, right? So, but it was still really good, and I like how they did it. And then when Megatron was finally revealed, you had the big fight towards the end. That was great. So now that you have Megatron like in play, it's like, okay, how do you like figure this out? So now we rebuild up to, the rising action before we get to the climax again. And we're still like at the very, very beginning stages here. So we'll wait to see how it goes and let it develop a little bit more. So again, that's Transformers issue number 26. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.2. Ooh, now we get to the Power Fantasy, which I love so very much. I've been enjoying the heck out of this book. So I gave this a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.7. Incredible story, incredible book that we have here. Now, here's what I'm going to say. You could technically jump into issue 13 because it actually summarizes everything wonderfully from the very first, kind of cover page summary that you have there and who the characters and the players, and the issue itself goes back and explains pretty much everything that has happened. However, you would do yourself an enormous disfavor or, disservice by going in and actually reading issue 13. Like, start from the beginning. It is so worth it. I'm loving like every second of this thing. So this is major spoilers for the whole series basically, so just kind of keep that in mind. I would just recommend that you don't listen to this review, and I'm just going to tell you to just go ahead and read it. I've loved every single shock value and cliffhanger that this series has had along the way. It's one of the best books that I've read of the year. I'm telling you, the Power Fantasy, this is where it's at. So with all that being said, what we have in this issue and what was revealed in the last issue is we have cast of characters. They're basically mutants is the best way to describe them, and all of them are Omega level. And on top of that, there's only like 6 of them. So it's very, very few. So you have Valentina, who's basically an angel sent from heaven, and she's effectively Superman. She can do all the things Superman could do. Then you have NTN, who's basically Professor Xavier. He's an Omega level omnipath, like telepath. So those are the two. They're kind of packed together, and NTN is like kind of the head of, or his whole thing is like ethics. Then you have Magus, and then you have Eliza. And so those two are kind of aligned together. Eliza stopped this huge, terrible thing that was going to happen years ago where this alien came down and looked like it was going to destroy Earth in the Summer of Love. She did that by like making a deal with the devil. And so by doing that, she's like a super powerful, basically to the level of Valentina as well. She's on one side. Magus actually died years back. Eliza's husband, who we thought was dead, has actually been playing as though he's Magus, but he's really Dev. So they're actually packed up together, and they just realized that, like, oh my gosh, this is my husband who I thought was deceased, and he was playing this whole lie, but it's all part of this big scheme. So they're together. Then you have some other minor characters too, of Mansuni. She can summon kaiju, and if her emotions are unstable. And then you have Heavy. So Heavy just had a kid. His kid is Kid Ignition, and in the last issue, NTN was revealed to us that it's not the specific character of NTN. He was killed 2 issues ago. NTN is actually a brain. It's like an enormous brain that has been just growing and growing over these years. And so very early on, it was like a vegetable back in like World War I, World War II era. And he was able to be a telepath really from those first couple of weeks and months, and just convinced the doctors to just continue to keep him on morphine. He grew to the point where he's this enormous tumor, and basically was like, okay, now he's like using his telepathic things to like get the brain to some sort of lab, and has just been moving and transporting and, you know, kind of corrupting and tricking people into keeping this brain sustainable. But it's the size of like multiple New York City blocks under New York City, and it just takes on the body of whatever avatar it chooses to take on. Absolutely nuts. But that's what NTN is. It's actually just an enormous mass of brain that continues to grow. And so in this issue here, NTN, he put Kid Ignition in like a vegetable state, basically the same state that he was in. And so Heavy's pissed, obviously. And they all go up into space in this like space pyramid thing, and they effectively have a parlay is what they do. And so all of them kind of gather and they lay all the cards on the table as to what's happened. So NTN obviously reveals that he wasn't actually who that person was that was killed, and that he's a brain. Valentina knew the location, gave the information to everyone, and now they're basically trying to decide, like, what do they do with all this information. NTN says that there's a failsafe, that if you kill me right now because of what I've done to your son, Kid Ignition, the entire North America, Canada, US, Mexico, is going to be destroyed, is what he basically claims, that he has this failsafe. So you can do something crazy if you want to, but don't. And Heavy can basically create earthquakes. So he could easily flatten, right, where the brain is. And so they keep arguing back and forth on what to do. Part of them is like, well, you know, maybe we just let things kind of settle and like we decide on some other way to move forward. Others are like, well, we need to figure out, like, you know, how do we keep one another at bay? How can we ever live with each other? And it gets to the point of this arguing back and forth, and Heavy just decides, you know what, F it. We can't have NTN exist. And all you see is you turn the page, and the entire block of where the brain was is just lifted out of the ground and launched into space. And NTN is just dead. And that's the end of it. At least for now. So NTN's completely gone now that the brain has been removed. And so we'll see what all the fallout is after this. Wild, crazy book. Enjoying the hell out of it. So good. Let's go ahead and show off the artwork here. The power fantasy. What a trippy thing. So this summary here on the left-hand side does an excellent job of explaining all the things I basically just kind of talked about. And we basically have this parlay in this floating pyramid up in space. And so from here, they're basically talking like all these different, you know, everyone's pissed off. Obviously, Heavy is like, my son is a vegetable. Like, you're going to die, NTN. And a lot of this is just the explanation of everything that's happened, all the horrible shit that NTN's done in the name of like ethics, in the name of like trying to keep humanity running and allowing humanity to continue on without the these effectively mutants, without their powers like trying to interfere as much. And there's also like NTN killed a powerful mutant years ago. Here's where you turn the page, and like just this whole huge crater is just lifted out of the ground from heaven, or from Manhattan into the sky. And yeah, basically NTN decided not to use the failsafe in the end because he thought that using this on all these innocent people actually wasn't ethical. So he was bluffing the whole time. Crazy. Masterpiece. Loving it. Incredible stuff. So that's Power Fantasy, issue number 13. I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.7. Highly, highly, highly recommend. So cool. All right, from one cool book to another, we're taking everyone down with us. I gave this one a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.6. Really good books this week, as you can tell. Although it's kind of a tale of two cities, because once we get to the second half, maybe not so much. But this is the conclusion to we're taking everyone down with us. So, you know, obviously not the time to jump into this book. This will be the full spoilers for the full thing. But the nice thing about this is you do have a way that they could kind of continue the series from here, which is pretty cool. So we have, what is her name in this one? The daughter here. Totally blanking on it. Annalise, because I was thinking Eliza, but I was like, no, that's the power fantasy. So Annalise, she is the daughter of two supervillains, right? And so her dad basically raised her. Her dad does a whole bunch of robotic stuff. So, all the robots that like Tesla and this Chinese company that they're all making, like these humanoid robots, they're actually doing that in this comic, right? And basically raising this daughter, he's definitely done some kind of mutations and surgeries and operations and cybernetics that he's installed in her as well, because she's basically a walking weapon trained assassin. And so with this universe, you have these supervillains, and then you have what's called Veil, but it's effectively MI6, James Bond spy stuff. They are trying to destroy all the supervillains. So we have Annalise's, right? It's Annalise, not Eliza. I'm sorry. Keep forgetting. Yes, Annalise. We have her father who has died. He has transferred his consciousness into one of these robots. The robot was just recently stolen by the main spy, Rook, and they have him up in this volcano. And so Annalise decides, I am going after the robot to save him because it's really the only family I have left. Her mother is there. She's in her mother's castle, doesn't know her mother at all, didn't grow up with her mother. It's kind of like to hell with her. Got to go after the Vitruvian, which is what, kind of her father is referred to as, or the robot is anyways. So that's what she does, takes out a whole bunch of guards, gets to the secret volcano, layer underneath, and starts fighting through. She squares off against Rook, and they have this badass conversation back and forth of like why she shouldn't kill him and if he's going to kill her, and then, yada, yada. It's a standoff, but it's done extraordinarily well. Really, really highly recommend you just pick it up just to read through that. The dialogue is so well done there. But basically get to the point where Annalise gets distracted. Rook takes advantage, shoots himself up through like a jetpack out of the volcano, and he's off. And then it gets to the point where the volcano is imploding. So Annalise, she just barely gets to the Vitruvian. She shoots off and she escapes as well, and returns back to her mother's palace, but it's like kind of a country, but it's almost like her lair with all of her minions as well. And so when she returns, Annalise says, like, please, save the robot. This is the only thing that I have that's family, and I know you have the capability of doing it. So they tried their best, and she promises that they will, but it's basically like, hey, the technology is too advanced. Your father was working on this. We can't do anything about it. And so extraordinarily sad. A couple days later, they decide to have like kind of a funeral thing, and basically the mother announces to her whole kingdom that like, hey, we're actually going to change our whole methodologies from being evil to now we're actually going to be good people, and we're going to try to do better for the world. So when that happens, Annalise then confronts the mother and is like, what the hell? Like, why are you going to do this? This is insane. And they get into this huge argument back and forth. And then slowly behind her shows up the Vitruvian, the robot. So I guess he was healed. And it's revealed that Annalise, just behind her mother's back, just went in and did what she needed to do and actually was able to repair the robot. Goes in, the Vitruvian robot snaps the mother's neck, and now she is dead. And so now Annalise is like the heir, so she takes over her mother's whole evil empire kingdom thing, and she is going to now lead forward this evil empire, and I imagine she's going to go after the Veil and go after Rook. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So that's the story there. Then it has an epilogue at the end. We go way back to the first issue where the Vitruvian was attacked from Veil in the first place and died. And our whole time thinking through these 6 issues is that the man, the Vitruvian, the doctor, put his consciousness into the robot. That's not actually what happened. Turns out the Vitruvian, the man, was about to put his consciousness in, but some of the wiring wasn't working, so he's trying to get it corrected. Then the robot asked the question of like, oh, sir, like when you transfer your consciousness into my body, am I going to remember who I am? And he says, like, no, probably not. And while he's distracted, the robot actually kills the Vitruvian. So this whole time we're under the impression that Veil and Rook and that spy organization killed the man, but it actually turns out the robot sidekick of Annalise the entire time was the one that killed her father in the first place. It's insane. She's walking around with her killer thinking that it's actually her father. Nuts. Nuts. Incredible storytelling. I'm loving it. I can't wait for the next series to come out. They said it's actually going to be more of a focus on Vale and Rook's story rather than a continuation of what's, kind of been happening with Annalise and the Vitruvian robot. So yeah, crazy stuff. What a twist. Excellent writing. The whole time I was super invested. You have like really good funny jokes in there as well. It's an excellent book. So we're taking everyone down with us. That's issue number 6. Again, I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.6. Highly recommend this book as well. I'm glad I took the risk on this one because I don't really know why I would have, but I'm glad that I did it. So next we have Green Lantern Corp, issue number 10. So again, this book I wasn't really supposed to get. And I was like, okay, if I have time, I'll read it, but if not, just go ahead and swap it out. But I did have time, and I do kind of regret reading it. So I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.4. I mean, hey, it's at least consistent, so give it credit for that. But we're starting a new arc here that obviously I won't finish. So if you wanted to jump in, it'd be fine, but I don't recommend it. We have John Stewart. He is like being summoned by the Ring to return back to the Green Lantern Corp, but he doesn't want to. When he returns, he finds out that on Oa, the planet where they're at, they have a bunch of prisoners. Some of the prisoners escaped. So he's like, all right, I'm here. I might as well help with this. So go and confront the prisoner. But it ends up being one of his exes from years ago. And so initially they start fighting, but it basically gets to the point where John's like, hey, I'm not part of the Corp. And the Corp has really honestly lost its way. We're viewed as this world police, but that was never really the intention and the hope of any of this. And so we know why you're mad and why you're pissed off. It's because your planet was destroyed by some sort of alien race. But I know, like, I guess, like, interdimensionally that where your planet is, it's maybe in some sort of pocket dimension. And he says, like, if you go and, like, rectify something, I will then give you the coordinates to go back to your home planet. So kind of like extortion, if you will, but that's basically what he says. And so with that, she goes off and leaves. But turns out that another prisoner escaped as well. He is like a blob thing, and at first you think it's like this little child that they try to get back to either its cell or wherever they think it needs to go, but it's a blob, so it like then transforms into like this evil thing and turns to her and is like, your country or your planet was destroyed, so was mine, let's go out and like get some revenge, basically. So that's the cliffhanger. Don't know where it's going to go, don't really care, not super into it. You can skip it. So that's Green Lantern Corp issue number 10. Again, I gave it a 3.5. League gave it a 3.4. Oh, snap. You know what? I'm sorry. Real quick. I forgot to do some of the artwork for We're Taking Everyone Down With Us. So let's go ahead and show that off real quick for some of the action. That is on me. But the artwork here is really awesome. It's like kind of these like darker tones than you would ordinarily see. But you have really nice like contrast in the art, from the explosions to actually the focus on a lot of the characters in the panels. Some are like super actiony, others are dialogue heavy. It's a really good mix and balance that you have that's going on here. And then, back to Green Lantern Corp. For this, it's just kind of standard DC is what you have here. Nothing too special that you have going on. The other piece that you have here are the newer cadets. They basically go through boot camp, so you got a couple panels of that. But again, not anything that you're missing out by skipping this one. So, yep, Green Lantern Corp, issue number 10. Again, I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.4. Alrighty, then we get to Robo Wolf. So this wasn't in my box the week it initially came out, but we have it now. So this is a Dark Horse, yes, book. I gave it a I was way lower on it than League was. I gave it a 3.5. League gave it a 4.5. So League was way higher on it than I was. And 65 ratings is a pretty decent sample size. But for me, the story was like too zany, too out of there. It's like too out there for me personally. It's like takes place in the 80s, but take the 80s and just like ramp it up to not just like 11 to 111. It's insane, crazy, over the top action, super violent, super like drug use heavy, like, all the stuff to the extreme. And what we have with Robo Wolf, he's basically trying to find his daughter. He's got this crew. And in the first issue, they're trying to like work with the crew to figure out where the daughter is. But one of the guys is like a drug addict. And so like his dealer was like going after him and stuff. And they had to figure out a way to stop him. Now they're confronted by one of Robo Wolf's partners in the past. And so he attacks, but he's got like chainsaws as his hands, as you can see kind of on the cover here. And learn the backstory of it was him and Robo Wolf. They're partnered together. They're trying to free these refugees. So when they free them, the partner gets a call from like the HQ of like kill all the hostages. And Robo Wolf's like, whoa, what are you doing? And he's like, I got a call. These are orders. We got to do it. And Robo Wolf stops him. But when Robo Wolf stops him, then basically the partner, he takes him out, and then Robo Wolf is then sold off to like some sort of I guess it's like tech lab, but like they're evil, and they're the ones that like put in all the Robo Wolf like robotics into him and make him into what he is. And then the partner, he's like rewarded with all this money, and he decides to install chainsaws as his hands. So they start fighting. His crew, they're able to hack into the chainsaw guys because he's got all this cybernetic wear. And so when they hack him, at the same time, the whole crew is also being attacked by these swamp people. So now the hacked partner, he goes and he attacks all the swamp people, takes all of them out. So now it's like, okay, they're good. They have him hacked, and they're like, oh, can we go back to a time basically where he wasn't crazy and he was partnered up with Robo Wolf? It's like, yeah, they start to biohack him, and it looks like they've got him to the point of healing, and then his head like literally explodes because it's like too much, I guess, dopamine and like trying to process all the horrible things that he's done at once. Like crazy, zany, over the top, like I said. So then we come to find out that he was actually sent from I guess he's a general or whatever, but it's the same group that has Robo Wolf's daughter held captive. And now he's like, well, I need to see, we got to get our hands on Robo Wolf in the next 8 hours. Otherwise, I'm killing his daughter, and I'm like killing all of you people as well. So he's going insane and psycho, and the stakes are just getting that much higher. So yeah, if you couldn't tell from just the description of it, the story is like nuts, but the artwork is just as nuts as well. So very 80s influenced, high action, not only just from like the art style, but like the actual, weapons, and, you got kind of the Rambo style with the ammo wrapped around his body. Like all of it is very heavily 80s focused, but the detail on it is like absolutely insane. So here's where Robo Wolf is getting all the robotics installed on him and everything like that. Like, look at this. It's just like the level of detail, and it's like the colors, they pop. They're more like a neon style. Great saturation that you have here too. So yeah, it's a pretty cool project from the art side of things. It's just the story isn't as good, in my opinion. But I'll continue with it. So that's Robo Wolf issue number 2. I gave it a 3.5, but League gave it a 4.5. Then next here is Youngblood. So this is a book that came out quite a while ago, well before I got into comics, but this is considered the mass market edition. And I'm reading through this book, and I mentioned it on the previous issue if you guys tuned into that one, but I'll talk about it a little bit here. So for Youngblood, I was like reading through it and looking at the artwork, and I was like, man, this looks really similar to Local Man with Crossjack. It's like, was Local Man influenced by this book? And sure enough, it was. So it's kind of a parody on this, and it's specifically a parody kind of on Rob Liefeld and his entire art style. And so I kind of figured that this was the case, but I wasn't 100% sure. I was like, is he kind of a meme in comic books? Because, I'm so new to all of this. And yeah, I still decided to end up doing a podcast about it, which was hilarious. But, it's whatever. It's an amateur doing amateur stuff, so that's totally fine. But I found this really, really good YouTube video that I was reading basically the history of Rob Liefeld and like why you should give him more credit for being like a better, comic artist, or in like his impact to the industry than you think. So this was from Pixel Panels, and really recommend watching this video because I learned so much. So didn't realize he was like a co-founder of Image in the first place, which is nuts. Him, Jim Lee, and some other guys. But also the history of comics, of like back in the day, like 90s and 80s and before that, you didn't get into comic books as like an illustrator or an artist until you were a very seasoned professional. Like, you worked on a bunch of cartoons for many years and you were considered a master in your craft, and then you got to work on comics. Like, that's how revered it was back then. And Rob Liefeld broke into the industry like as a literal teenager. So I think he was like 16, 17, 18, something like that. Zero like traditional educational background, like wasn't classically trained or anything like that, just 100% an amateur, and turned his dream into a reality. Like, that's what all of us want to do. Like, I'd love for this podcast to just blow up, and like, I didn't go to like, you know, any sort of communication school or anything like that, but just drew and just made his shit a reality. Now, the reason he gets so much flack and like he's a meme and like people are like, oh my gosh, really, you like that, is because his art style is like crazy zany, over the top, right? It's like with all the different attributes of men and women, just like crazy over accentuated, right? From the muscles on top of muscles, the impossible like shape of like women with like their backs that are all arched and everything, right? Hyper sexualized, like all that stuff that you now see quite a lot in comics. He's basically the origin of all of that. And on top of that, he also pumped out a crap ton of work on top of it too. So you saw a lot of it out there, and you know, people, you either love it or hate it, but it is like a kind of a tremendous influence that you see in comics kind of today. And yeah, this video just did an excellent job of just explaining everything. And like, he puts out, or at the time put out, more comics than really anything else. And a lot of the modern styles, like I always talk about Miles Morales, like how I like the layers of the different panels and the juxtaposition, where you have like, depending where the character is and like actually the storytelling going through the panels. Like, he was the one that did that. He originated all of it in X-Force, and that has basically pushed the medium forward ever since. So rather than just having the standard grids that you would traditionally see, like, he's the one that actually was the maverick that paved the road and the trailblazer that ended up what you see today and is considered like highly regarded. So, you know, it wasn't all a success from the jump, but a lot of it is, you know, still stands today, and he's like the reason behind it. So you kind of have to give the devil his due of like, okay, you don't like that particular art style, but a lot of the influence and things that we absolutely love about comics is all due to him. So give the devil his due type deal. And so, you know, for me, newer to the hobby, I don't have, you know, the years and years and years of like, oh my gosh, like it's the same stuff I'm seeing over and over again. Like, I want to see something different, or, you know, why is this always off? Like the Captain America, that's the famous image that everyone talks about. That was a concept apparently that wasn't even supposed to be released, right? So that's the famous one that everyone gives him all shit for, because the proportions and the way the chest is all puffed out and everything like that. But it's like, a lot of that is attributed to him, but like that wasn't supposed to ever be seen in public. So it's like, it's just a concept art. But that's like the one that's everyone always points to that's like associated with his name. But it's like, you know, maybe do a little research and like you come to find out some interesting things. So anyways, off of Rob, onto the actual book itself. The book is like fine, you know, it's I understand why Local Man was making fun of it. At the end of each Local Man, you basically had this issue here. So you have these crazy looking characters from Die Hard to Vogue to Bad Rock to Chapel to Shaft. Like, those are their names, and they straight up look like characters out of Local Man. It is so funny. And they go and they fight this guy Xerxes. So here's like a perfect example of these panels, right? You see how they layer on top, and then you have this enormous panel that you have here of this yacht. They're fighting this guy Xerxes, and you see just like muscles on muscles on muscles, and like how everyone looks like just crazy, insane, almost like Super Saiyan like superheroes. Like, he is kind of the origin of a lot of that you see today. So they're fighting this guy Xerxes. First, it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to stop him, but then towards the end they get back up at the end here. So that's really the whole bit of the storytelling, and it's more of like epic drawings and epic aura farming postures and poses and things like that. But I think for me personally, it's a really good piece of like art or comic history to like have a sense of like, here are where comics have come from and where they're at right now. And this is like kind of a cornerstone of it. So yeah, I mean, not the greatest piece of work. I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.7, but I think an important one for me anyways, for someone who's like trying to review this stuff and like have a more of a critical approach. I think it's something that I needed to read in the first place. So I'm glad I picked it up. So yeah, Youngblood's Rob Liefeld joint. He does both the art and the writing on it as well. And I'll continue with it, just to kind of see it to the end, see if anything kind of changes here. But I have a feeling it's just going to be a pretty blah story, and a lot of it is art driven. And if you're into the art, you're into the art. If you're not, you're not. So yeah, that is Youngblood's issue number 1. Again, I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.7. Cool. And then, so, talked about Rob. Now let's go to Jim Lee. So we got Batman Hush. This is 162. I believe it's the second to last issue that we have here. And League freaking hated this book. So League gave it a 2.2. I gave it a 3.5, mostly on the artwork. Probably thinking back to it, it maybe deserved a 3 here. Where we're at right now is Batman is trying to get to Hush, right? So he is consumed with just trying to stop Hush, and everyone is trying to calm him down, from Catwoman to Robin to Dick to pretty much everyone. And it gets to the point where no one can really stop him, and he's so focused, but he doesn't quite catch up to Hush. Jason then shows up, Red Hood, and he has the Batmobile for some reason. He gets out. Batman takes it over. When he takes it over, we finally see Hush. Hush blows up the block that the Batmobile is, and the Batmobile falls down into like the subway underneath. And then basically the whole rogue gallery of all of the villains that you would imagine are under there waiting for him. So Bane, Joker, I think everyone but like Riddler, I think Scarecrow's there, like all just waiting to like kind of, it looks like attack. So we'll see what happens there. So that's the story. I mean, the biggest thing for this is just the art. So it's Jim Lee, who's, obviously another cornerstone on some of the artwork here. I love how you have like just a classic Nightwing there of just an ass shot that you have right there. It's like, oh my gosh, he's so... That's like the Playgirl version is always Nightwing. The reason he's so popular is freaking hilarious. But Jim Lee's another one where it's like, obviously, like muscles on muscles on muscles is another thing. But Jim Lee's detail is like out of this world compared to Rob Liefeld. Like, it's not even in the same league, in my opinion. So yeah, everyone's just trying to stop Batman, and he just won't listen, basically. And it gets to the point where... he gets into that car, they blow it up here. Like, look at the detail on that, huh? And then he falls through, and then that's where, you got Joker down here. I think it was Bane that you can see in the background as well, too. So we'll see what all happens. So, yeah, Batman 162. We're about to close it out. Seems like people are liking the new run of Batman, but that's pretty campy and over the top, so... I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and close it out. 163 is going to be the last one, and then maybe be off of Batman for a little bit and just pick up maybe some of the miniseries here and there. Dark Patterns looks really good, so I may start picking those up and reading those in trade. Anyways, we got Miles Morales, Spider-Man issue number 39 is going to be the next one here. So this one, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.7. This is just the conclusion of the arc that I described as like kind of just the classic superhero story where we have 2 villains, quote unquote, that are robbing banks, but it turns out they owe this debt to Black Obsidian. Now Miles, Black Cat, Misty, and then the 2 villains, Naru and White Cat or Nari, something like that, are attacking Black Obsidian. And the story goes exactly how you think. They stop him fairly easily, and they're able to prevent him from, trying to take advantage of anyone else. White Cat and Inari are basically let it go with a slap on the wrist, and so they kind of continue on their way. Black Cat was like, kind of cool doing hero stuff, but then she kind of goes on her merry way as well. So that finishes up there. Then we get to the next part of the book, which I was actually kind of surprised by. It's Dr. Kwan, who is Miles' therapist, and she's actually talking to Rabble. So Rabble was like, I don't know, 20, issue arc that we had with Miles. And so I guess she's just working through all her trauma, and we just kind of revisit all the things that happened to her. Remember, her whole thing is she was pissed off that Miles took her spot at the Vision Academy instead of her, pissed off at the system, and then her whole thing is she can talk to technology. So pretty cool villain from that standpoint. I mean, crazy petty to like get all pissed off at Miles for winning the lottery spot rather than, you know, being pissed off at the system and yada yada and going about things a different way. But that's her whole thing. So motive is a little off there. And then at the end, we get some things that happen after Ultimate Incursion, like the cover of the comic kind of reference here. So we had Miles coming back from Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion. His sister is a couple months older. She starts talks to her parents about like, yeah, sorry about that. But at least she's back and safe. And then he brings back with him to this world the origin boxes from the Ultimate Universe. So those are the boxes that had the superpowers for the folks that Tony was giving out to try to create the Ultimates in the first place. So remember, in the Ultimate Universe, the Maker arrived in this universe and all the powers were stripped out. So nobody had them. But Tony Stark was able to, with the help of his dad, put together a whole bunch of these origin boxes of who would be the best candidates for these powers. Some accepted them, some rejected them. Some of the origin boxes ended up in other people's hands. And so now I guess Miles took a whole bunch back and they got to figure out what to do. And at the bottom of it says 2026, which makes me believe that actually cool thing about Miles is in 2026, the Miles Morales like series is going to be a critical and important piece of storytelling for the Marvel Universe in 2026, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to that. I've been enjoying Miles a lot. I'm going to obviously continue to read through Miles, and I'm just excited for more. And I'm glad that he's taking more of a center stage on like just the overall Marvel Universe as well. So with that, let's go ahead and talk through show off some of the artwork here. So yeah, great, awesome stuff that you have here. And this is like a perfect example of like, this is stuff that Rob did, you know, and why it's popularly used today is because of Rob Liefeld, like straight up. But anyways, so the artwork here is solid, you know, the best thing is probably mostly the paneling that you have, like I described before, but from here, like awesome action sequences. And then I'd say for the latter part, it's just mostly the conversations that you have, like Dr. Kwan talking with Rabble as well. And then at the very end, Miles talking about these origin boxes and how they're going to have a lot more, I guess, impact and influence and importance in 2026. So Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 39. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. And then last, but certainly not least, we have The Nice House on the Lake. And ladies and gentlemen, this one is definitely going to be the comic of the week. I freaking love this book. For this one, I gave it a 4.5. And League gave it a 4.5 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
I think that's the only one where I nailed it. So yeah, The Nice House on the Lake is just a wild story. And it's funny with this because I was looking at Helen of Windhorn. I think I mentioned, wrong button there. Sorry about that. I think I mentioned that, it was nominated for an Eisner, and it was, and I believe it won. But as I was looking through, I was like, well, you know, who else and what else has won? So the Eisner is like specifically, it is the comic books, right? It is their Oscars, their Tonys, their, you know, Grammy, so on and so forth. And then I saw James Tynion, except for 2025, he's won the last 3 in a row. So it's like, no wonder I love him because everyone else is loving him. And sure enough, Nice House on the Lake was comic of the year for one of the years. I think it was 2021. So it all kind of makes sense. It was either best new comic or comic of the year. It was like one or the other. And so I'm like, I get it, man. I get to issue 5 and this is just getting zanier and zanier and more nuts. So remember, we got this group here. They all show up at this house for Walter. You think that he's going to have some big parties, invited high school friends, college friends, people from recent post-grad. And they're all there. Right when they get there, the entire world like dies. Within hours, they see the whole thing falling apart on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, you name it. Like the whole world is just gone. And they're trapped there. Can't escape. They don't know what's going on. Walter reveals himself as like some sort of alien. and they keep like writing stuff on notepads, and they get like all these like presents and gifts, and they're basically there to just kind of live out their lives and whatever sort of debauchery that they want. But we don't really know fully the rules of all that's happening here. 30 days in, find out that they can't die. Like, one of them tries to stab themselves with a razor blade. They can't die. And then now in this issue, they're trying to figure out, like, what do we do next? And so in issue 2, one of the guys found this, like, structure thing that's on the property, but it's, like, kind of hidden away. But I guess nobody else explored it over the last 30 days. And I'm like, what? You found this thing? Let's go check it out. So the whole crew all heads up there. There are weapons and stuff in this house, too. So they bring those up, and they go to the structure, and they find out that there's no door there. So of course, they try to shoot it. Doesn't work. They try to blow it up. That doesn't work either. And then these symbols at the top here that you see on the book, they each correspond to symbols that one of the characters were given. And it has to do with like their position. Like, one of them is like a reporter, another's a doctor, another's, so on and so forth. And each one of them is like, oh, let's line up with our position and like touch the stone. So they do. And at first they ask some different things. And then I think one of them asks the questions like, can you please present a door or something like that? And sure enough, a door opens up, and out comes a different one of Walter's friends. And he's like, oh my gosh, I thought you guys would never figure that out. Like, you're supposed to figure that out sooner. And everyone's like, what? And you as the reader are like, what the hell are you talking about? And he's like, oh, no worries. There's still time. And everyone's like, what? Still time for what? And he turns to them and says, still time to save the world. It's like, what the hell is going on? What do you mean there's still time to save the world? Why are you in there? How did you, like... There's so much to unfold. All it did was create like 80 billion more questions in like the best possible way. It's like, what is this book about, man? I am loving it. It is, what a crazy fun adventure. I mean, it's horrifying, it's terrifying, and it's like, what way are you going to take us? I don't know. I'm loving it. It's so much fun, man. The nice house on the lake. Each page too, I'm like, I just gotta know what happens. I gotta know. I almost immediately went into issue number 6. I'm probably gonna be reading it tonight, and it's gonna be on the issue for this Saturday. So yeah, it's fun stuff. Yeah, let's go through the artwork real quick. Oh, press the wrong button. The artwork here is pretty good. So I like it, but I say most of the storytelling here is just done through the writing itself, but they do a good job of just kind of laying out, like, here are the different things, what's at stake. I'd say the way that it's done, like, you have almost like, how do I describe it? As though you took a photo on a Polaroid and then you colorized it. So it has like these different streaks through the artwork, like intentionally, which makes it almost like faded. It's tough to describe. You can see it if you're looking here, and I'm sure there's an art style for it, but I can't really describe it. But it has a nice mix of like these darker, like mysterious colors, and then you have like this autumn fall, like browns and reds and oranges as the sunset. Now here you have like these different purples and things as they're trying to open up the thing. And then here's the painter. He comes out and he's like, yep, there's still time to save the world. And it's like, what the hell could that possibly mean? So I guess it's more of like a painted art style is the way to describe it. And that's like the whole thing all throughout. And this is the painter here. So yeah, so cool. Definitely worth it. Definitely just go ahead and jump in. And it's a DC Black label too, which is nuts. So yeah, that is the nice house on the lake, issue number 5. Again, I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.5 as well. And so yeah, that is it, folks. Those are going to be all the books for this issue. So let's go ahead and recap it here. We have Superman, the Kryptonite Spectrum, issue number 4. This is Superman fighting his way through the 5th dimension. Pretty cool, trippy book. Then we had Transformers issue number 26. We had 2 Decepticons, one who's going back to Megatron, other is staying with the Autobots. Then we have the Power Fantasy issue number 13. Man, Heavy decides to take out NTN. Then we have We're Taking Everyone Down With Us, issue number 6. Annalise, she's able to save the Vitruvian and looks like she is now in charge of her mother's kingdom. Then we have Green Lantern Corp, issue number 10. Looks like Jon Stewart is maybe staying away from the Corp, and we got some prisoners that have escaped. Robo Wolf issue number 2. I'll say I didn't mention it before, but I'll mention it now. This is definitely the cover of the week. Or at least the cover of the issue anyways, because it came out a couple weeks ago, but super trippy. Book that we have here, excellent art style as Robo Wolf tries to save his daughter. We have Youngblood issue number 1. We got a ragtag group of heroes trying to stop Xerxes. Then we have Batman 162. Batman's still trying to get after Hush, but he looks like it's trapped by the villains. And then Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 39. Miles, he's able to stop Black Obsidian, but he's got to figure out what to do with the origin boxes next. And then the Nice House on the Lake issue number 5. We have the Painter revealed to us, and I guess some way, somehow, we can still save the world. So, those are the books. That is an issue of Saturday Morning Comic Review. I thank you so very much for tuning in. We're going to have our regular Saturday issue coming out 10 a.m. as always, so that'll be up and coming. Be on the lookout for that. Next week, I think I am still going to do an Omega for Thanksgiving. I really don't see why not. So I think that is going to happen there. On the wrestling side, I'm probably only going to do one show for next week because I got a couple other wrestling things that are coming up. But yeah, I think it's going to be kind of business as usual for Thanksgiving week. So yeah. I think we'll go ahead, close it out. Obviously, in the description below, whether you're listening on a podcast or you're watching the video version, you find all the places where I'm at on social media. So feel free to follow there. Feel free to like, subscribe, share, whether it be the podcast or the video. All that helps to really get out the word. Let me know what I can improve, things you want changed. Do you like the format, hate the format, things that you'd like to see different. Always happy to take some feedback. And if you want to leave a tip, I'm on buymeacoffee.com/Saturday Morning Review. So if you like what I'm doing and they're like, yeah, Dylan, keep it going. Here's $5. Every dollar's appreciated. We'll just go to, honestly, buying some more comics. So yeah, I think with that, we'll go ahead and close it out. Thank you so very much for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next one.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.